When level God shine a light on me, open up my eyes so I can see. When I look up in the darkest night, then I know everything is gonna be alright.
Van Morrison is a singer-songwriter and instrumentalist from Northern Ireland who is famously reclusive and does not court the attention of the press. His musical career started in 1964 when he formed with a band called Them, who were at that point active in London. And his solo career was launched in 1967 after he'd recorded some songs for his publisher and thought they were going to be released as singles, and found out that they'd released it as an album without telling him. His career has spanned since then, and we're on this year his 43rd album and is still going. He has moved around between the US, the UK, and Ireland. And again, reading on the Wikipedia, it sounds like he moves around a lot, but it's been a long career. So I think he's entitled to move around a bit if he wants to. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was Van Morrison's 19th studio album, and I have to admire anyone who can do that many albums and still keep coming up with new stuff and new ideas for it. I don't think I've heard this album in its entirety before. I do know a few of the songs on it. So musically, I describe this as being a singer-songwriter. I've definitely got an idea in my head of what this means to me. It's kind of medium, some of it a bit faster, some slower. It's kind of in the folk, rock, almost country at times, but of course he's not from America, so you wouldn't really think of it as country. So lots of kind of different textures and different bits of style in there, and there's lots of strings. I feel like it's a biscuit that's been dunked into a mug of strings. It's kind of saturated with these strings all the way through. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I would say that musically it's generally my kind of thing, but maybe the predominance of the strings makes it a little bit too slushy. It's just a little bit. There's some 1980s keyboard sounds in here as well, particularly electric piano, which are kind of, yes, that's so 80s. The singing, for Van Morrison, it's mostly clear. He does tend to mumble sometimes or slur a bit, but it's all pretty clear on this. And he's got a very recognisable voice, and I wouldn't say it's a technically strong voice, but it's quite an expressive voice, which is good. There's a couple of tracks there. One track which is probably my favourite on the album, Coney Island, which is not about Coney Island in New York. It's about Coney Island in somewhere in Northern Ireland, and it's spoken. And I never realised before, unless he's putting it on, how strong a Northern Irish accent Van Morrison has. It's kind of like poetry, and it's this kind of idyllic day, bird watching, the places that they've been. There's lots of place name checks in there, and it's a great track. The next track after that is also is halfway between spoken and singing. Fine. So now I'm going to talk about the content. So this is so it's an album of songs that do, that they're not just stuff that's passed me by. I was definitely kind of listening to the words, and particularly this kind of kicks off with the beginning of the album with Whenever God Shines His Light, which is a duet with Cliff Richard, as it happens. And Cliff was well known for being an advocate and a committed Christian. And off the strength of that song, which I believe became a charting single, there was strong rumours going around that Van Morrison was also a committed Christian. Now, listening to the rest of the album, I would say I'm not sure if that's the case. His Wikipedia page has various things to say about his attitude to religion, and it's not he doesn't seem to have the same stance that Cliff had at that point. I'm not making judgments. I'm not saying this is good or bad. There are other tracks in here. There's quite a few tracks that talk about spirituality and or God in some ways. So Have I Told You Lately That I Love You? A lot of people have taken to be a song talking about his relationship with God and whether he's told God that he loves him recently. It does mention God, but actually where I read the lyrics, and it looks to me like actually it's about a relationship with another person, but within the context of both also knowing the love of God within that. It could be open to interpretation. That's my interpretation, but I think it's reasonably clear. There is another one which is kind of strongly, which is when will I ever learn to live in God? Is a question about his own spiritual walk, obviously. There are a couple of tracks that are more mixed or more less orthodox, let's say, in terms of the spirituality that's being expressed here. So Daring Nights and Contacting My Angel both don't fit with kind of orthodox Christianity in that sense. It's all kind of an exploration. There's some stuff here generally about love and relationships, and obviously some stuff here and about spirituality of various kinds. It's an interesting exploration. I quite liked it as an album. I thought the songwriting was strong. The recording's decent. So I enjoyed it a reasonable amount. So that's what I thought. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. That's it from me for now.
Coming back from Downpatrick, stopping off at St. John's Point. Out all day bird watching and the crack is good. Stopped off at Strangford Lock early in the morning. Drove through Shigley, taking pictures and on to Killalay.